see dope people.
Welcome back to another episode of Dope People. I am your host, Brooklyn's favorite polymath, Hayden Green, and I am here with a very, very, very special dope person today, and we'll get into that in a few seconds. But for those of you who are not familiar with the term dope, and it's like, well, what is that word? It's an old throwback term, and it means something that interesting, that's really great. And so what I do on the show is I talk to dope people because I know some dope people, and I want you to know them as well. And so today, for those of you who have been wondering about why I call myself Brooklyn's favorite polymath, you're going to find out today, because the origin of that conversation is today's guest. Put your hands together for Mr. Jason Minnis. Give it up for Jason. Jason, how you doing, bro?
Man, it's a pleasure to be here, Hayden. You know, I'm happy to be here. And yes, you are the most interesting man in Brooklyn. And I am happy to be in your presence, and it's an honor and a pleasure.
Remember those commercials, the most interesting man in the world?
Yeah, the Don Julio joints. Them choices,
Yes.
them choices go. I like them. You know what I mean? I like them a lot.
Well, you know, career goal is to one day have a commercial about the most interesting man in Brooklyn. That'd be me. So
That's what's up.
That's my career goals.
That's what's up. You're on your way. You're on your way.
Day by day, my friend, day by day. So, Jason, what we do to start the show off, I want to get a litmus test about how my guests understand the term dope. And so, who is the dopest person that you know, or the dopest person that you've met maybe just one time?
Man, you saying that, I'm going to go with somebody who is probably a known quantity for people who know me. I would say my grandfather.
Okay.
My grandfather has had a huge influence in my life. For those who don't know, my grandfather, his name was Fred G. Minnis. He was the first Black lawyer in my area of Pinellas County, Florida, in St. Petersburg, Florida. He was a civil rights activist. He came up from nothing. He was a Howard graduate. He helped desegregate my hometown in the 1950s. He was also a member of our fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, and he passed away in 1991 when I was 10 years old. I did get a chance to spend a lot of time with him because we grew up together and stuff like that. But still, to this day, he still influences me as far as like his life and what he's done, and a lot of the things I continue to do now are a reflection of him, and like it's important to acknowledge that. So I know it's not like somebody like I could say like Andre 3000, even though I met him last month or something like that. But I'm gonna have to go with my grandfather. He's the dopest person I've met personally.
Listen, I can rubber stamp that for you, because one, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I think about is dope about you. But from what I know about your grandfather, it is a strong lineage and really a dope person to pick, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But yes, your family is quite extraordinary, and I'm honored to be in y'all presence.
You make me sound like the king or something like that. Nah, bro, I'm just a regular dude, but I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And it is important to acknowledge, even though we're joking, it is important to acknowledge the legacy of our forebearers, because we would not be here without them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let me tell you what I think is dope about you. So Jason, you are from Florida, and that's the thing that I think is dope about you, right? So when we in the North, we make fun. In fact, most of the country makes fun of Florida people, right? The term Florida man is a thing, right? Like and so one of the reasons, I don't know if you know this, but the term Florida man came from Florida sunshine laws, right? And so news reporters would be able to have all this access to all the crazy things that were happening in the counties, because they had all these sunshine laws that allowed them to peruse the police reports. But they couldn't use the names of the people, so oftentimes they would report it as Florida man does such and such. Florida man does such and such. And Florida's a strange place in and of itself. It's a very long state, so the top of the state sometimes doesn't resemble the bottom of the state, and then the panhandle doesn't resemble anything in the rest of the state. So you would always get these weird things, from somebody wrestling a gator to somebody getting locked out of their house to somebody robbing a post office, like all of these weird things that you would not get anywhere else because of these sunshine laws. And they always led with Florida man. So that's the
Mhm.
origin of Florida man, the whole Florida man thing.
Mhm.
But you are a vehement supporter of your state, and of what it stands for and how you can make it better and what you need to, and all the different things that need to happen in order for Florida to be respected in the way that it should. And you stand up for Florida, and you stand up for your family, and you stand up for Florida way of life. And I find that really, really engaging, because it's unabashed, right? Like, it's not like, yeah, yeah, man, I know I'm from Florida, blah, blah. No, it's like, nah, dude, I'm from Florida, right? Like, and and that's not a stance that you get very often, especially from people of color who come from Florida, right? It's like, yeah, I'm from Florida, but I'm not really from there, kind of thing. So I'm always very interested in, and your lineage. Your father is a historical figure in Florida, and
Mhm.
I really think that it is. It's always engaging. I always enjoy talking to you because I find out more about the history of your family, and I find it really, really interesting. So that's what I find dope about you, Jason.
I appreciate that. Do I have time to respond to some of that, or do
Yeah,
we want?
please
Yeah.
come on. Yeah,
I'll say this. I have a love hate relationship with my home state of Florida. Like, I think any black person anywhere in this country has a love hate relationship, but particularly in Florida. Historically, people don't realize Florida had the highest per capita lynching from 1860 until the 1950s. It was a very racially violent place, and so for those people who stayed, like my family, um, we have a lot of pride, but there's also a lot of historical, like black towns, like Rosewood, like where Zora Neale Hurston's from. I can't think of the name of the town where she's from, but there's like a lot of black solidarity and black race towns there. So there's a lot of pride in that. And to your point, people don't realize how even within the black community, how diverse Florida is. Like South Florida, you're dealing with a lot of Caribbean, migration and stuff like that, especially in the 1950s and 60s. Central Florida has its own kind of like flavor. It's like a mix. And then, like you mentioned, North Florida is more akin to like, Georgia and stuff like that. So amongst the black folks, there's that. Like, even though I'm from Florida, I make it clear, just like a New Yorker says, that, you say you're from New York, but you're really from Brooklyn. I
right.
make it clear I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida, South St. Petersburg, Florida. That's very clear. I'm not from Miami. Miami is a completely different thing. I respect for them. My best friend at LB is from Miami. I'm not from Jacksonville, which is its own thing, Duval County up north. Like, I am from, like, a very specific place that has a very specific culture that I'm very proud of. And I think it's one of those things when you're from Florida, um, I can talk smack about my home state, but like I feel a certain way when other people do. I mean, of course, we can joke and stuff, but like in serious and just, because I think in politics and stuff that we're seeing lately, it's really easy to kind of pile on things in Florida, but not understand there has been people who have been fighting the good fight for since Reconstruction, which includes people like my grandfather. And so I feel like that when you say throw the baby out with the bathwater, oh, Florida's a lost cause. No, there's been people fighting for a better Florida and a better country, and this exists all throughout the United States, but particularly in my home state, that's where my pride comes from, because the history of my family and other people who are not well as known, who are doing the work and continue to do the work. So
Yeah.
sorry for the political speech, but that's why I feel the way I feel.
No, that's perfectly aligned with what we're
Mm,
talking about. In
mm,
fact, that pride and that understanding of the work that's being done in Florida came out when our fraternity
mhm,
decided that they were going to go ahead with their conclave in Florida.
mhm,
uh, and I had one opinion, and unabashedly, I would say that we should have boycotted
mhm,
the state. And you and I had a very good conversation about why there are other things that should be done, and we should still go, right? And
mhm,
how if we go, there are people on the ground who are currently doing the
mhm,
work that we can support, and it was enlightening to hear that. So it moved me back off the ledge a little
mhm,
bit. But you don't get that a lot from a lot of people, because people want to acquiesce to the nomenclature
Yeah.
around Florida now, right? Like the
Yeah.
racism, Florida, uh, the the push against wokeness in Florida. But you were like, no,
Hmm.
we can't stand from the outside and just relinquish it to the people who want to change it for one way. We have to move it towards a different direction. So I appreciate the political stance. It's
Yeah.
exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to say that like it's important that to continue that point, it's important to do work from the ground and not like throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. And don't get it twisted. As much as I love Florida, I mean to be fully transparent, in this podcast, I've been living in Brooklyn for 18 years, no 19 years as of December. So I've spent the vast majority of my life or my adult life in Brooklyn, you know what I mean? And so, but there's something about growing up there that I still have immense amount of pride. Obviously, I still go back very often. And so I think that uh, it's important that we engage the communities that are there because there's long held historic black communities specifically in the state of Florida all throughout, rather you're talking about Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Miami, and even places that are not like the central city parts of Florida. They have these like really old historical black communities that were literally founded by freedmen after during reconstruction. And so
Right.
uh I don't want that to be thrown out and be kind of thrown out as like, oh, they're against woke and they're this because you're throwing out all that history that's there,
Yeah.
so that's kind of one of the reasons why I fight for Florida so much. So I appreciate that.
Huh? Well, I find that to be dope. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back with Jason Minnis. So don't go anywhere. And as a matter of fact, watch this commercial and go buy a dope t shirt or something along those lines. We'll be right back in 2 and 2.
I see dope people.
Welcome back to Dope People. I am your host again, Brooklyn's favorite polymath, Hayden Green. And today we have Jason Minnis on our podcast. Jason, how you doing? You good? We having fun on here?
We're having fun. I love it, man. I can't wait to come over and see you in person so I can eat all your food
Yeah.
and drink
I,
all your liquor.
yeah. That is exactly what people do. It's like people show up in the greenhouse and leave with full bellies and wavy
Mhm,
heads.
mhm.
I'll make sure we have all the moonshine and everything set up straight up for you.
Awesome, awesome.
So, Jason, people don't know. Yeah, and I said this in I think I posted this on my Instagram. You are the reason that I call myself a polymath, and I mentioned you in my book, the Smush book, because we were having this conversation. I was having this you know weird place where I was like, I can't get anything to stick, right? And he was like, just do it all, man. Your brand is you,
Mhm.
not photography or writing or poetry or anything. You are a polymath, and that stuck. And so I have to thank you for that. I appreciate you.
Appreciate that.
So, Jason, now's the chance I want to give you an opportunity to tell me what dope thing you were doing. Now, maybe a one-time thing like inspiring a polymath to change his tagline, or it might be something that you do on a regular basis where you teach music to young children at the Y every weekend, right? Like, what dope thing are you involved in?
Oh man, that's really hard because I think I have a similar situation to where you're at, where I have a lot of different things I'm very interested in, I'm very involved in, and I've shaped my life to kind of accommodate these various interests because I don't believe in focusing on one thing. But I would say one of the most dope things that's on the front of my mind now that I'm working on is um, I work with the East New York Nehemiah Homeowners Association. And for those who don't know, the Nehemiah Homeowners Project is one of the most successful affordable housing projects in the history of the country. I am currently a Nehemiah homeowner in East New York, Brooklyn, and I've been a member of the board for the past 10 years. And so our goal really is to keep the Nehemiah homeowners, because now they're starting to get older, to keep them in their homes, and also to do things we can politically to advocate for affordable housing in Eastern Brooklyn, Brownsville, East New York, and throughout the rest of the borough. And so that's something that I've been involved in for a while, and doing and putting in the work in. And it's been illuminating because that's actually then kind of opened me up to the political side of what's happening in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and the good, the bad, the ugly. One of our mutual frat brothers ran for office, and I helped assisted him in his campaign about a year and a half ago. And that's something that's really just opened my eyes to the politics of actually making change. And this goes to what I was saying with my grandfather earlier. You always hear about the big names, the MLKs and the Malcolm X's, and justifiably so. But behind them, there's tens of thousands, potentially millions of people who are doing the daily work, like doing the board member work or doing the
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
volunteering for the fraternity, that you never hear about. But it's always, I think about that phrase that I'll talk about is like and I'm probably butchering it, but it's like, a wise man uh, plants a tree that he won't live long enough to sit under the shade of it. And I butchered that, but you get the premise. It's like you putting in the
Absolutely.
work for your community now. I may not reap the benefits of it, but my children or grandchildren or other community members may as well. And so, yeah, that's something that's kind of just top of my mind now. I can name off like four other things, but that's like the one that's like kind of sticking out, at least right now, as far as my work with them.
So the Nehemiah houses are so I grew up in Brooklyn when the Nehemiah houses were going up,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And so prior to the Nehemiah houses, that area was
Yep.
trash. It was
Yep.
decrepit,
Hmm.
burnt out houses,
Hmm.
empty lots, and it was crazy. And then they raised a whole bunch of different blocks, and they put up these really good looking single family homes that made it look like neighborhoods. Put up tree lined
Yep.
streets, and out of nowhere, this pocket in East New York that was promulgated by apartment buildings and really crumbling brick fronts and stuff like that suddenly had this rejuvenated neighborhood, and everybody was skeptical.
Yep. They were. They were. They were.
Everybody was skeptical. I was like, "What do you mean you're going to give us a house for X, Y, and Z amount of money? It must be made of paper mache."
Yep.
They listen. They had to. It was like trying to give away lottery tickets to people, and those who actually took the government up and purchased the houses at the reduced rate are now reaping the benefits from it, and everybody who didn't is like, "Damn, I should have."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful community, and I am happy to hear that there are people who are really working to keep people in those houses, because you know what, there's this whole movement now, don't sell Big Mama's house, right? So
Yes, yes, that's
um
that's that's part of, like, literally, that's like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's like
no, no,
literally, like, I say that all the time to everybody. It doesn't matter where you live, whether you're in Brooklyn, whether you live in South Carolina, where you live in Florida. Don't sell your parents' house because, or your grandmama's house, because that's generational wealth. You know what I mean?
yes,
And
yes,
um, to your point, yes, exactly right. Now, I'm saying this as somebody who's a transplant. I was not here during those times because A, I wasn't old enough, and then B, I wasn't.
did you
I
call
was.
me old?
Yes, I did. That was a shot. I did take a shot at you. You know what I mean?
And
I did have to kind of, like, you were alive then. I was like three. You know what I mean? You probably had a 401k in the 80s. So I'm
oh, hey, hey,
hey,
whoa, whoa, whoa,
you know,
we was
yeah,
being nice here.
yeah. I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, but no, it's important to know. There's a couple of things I wanted to touch on with that. Like, a the Nehemiah Project was essentially a miracle because essentially you had these East Brooklyn churches, community organizations that went to the mayor at the time, Mayor Koch, because what was happening is this is the disinvestment that you saw in East New York and Brownsville is the same disinvestment you saw in the Bronx and other black neighborhoods across the country because they were redlined and they had white flight and disinvestment from their cities. And so Nehemiah came up with the idea, East Brooklyn churches, like, hey, Mayor Koch, instead of just letting this stuff sit here and become like, open drug market, you give us the land for $1 and we'll pair with housing, advocates to actually build affordable housing. And that's why I say it's one of the most successful, if not the most successful, affordable housing project in the history of this country, because literally you took nothing that was literally nothing there. This is not gentrification. There was nothing there. The people had left. The wealth had
Right.
left. There was blockbusting. There was redlining, and then you're dealing with the war on drugs. And then these group of people came together and built these homes, in Brownsville, in East New York, and I think they have a couple in the Bronx too, but primarily in East Brooklyn, and were able to sell these homes at the time for like 20, 30, $40,000. Now those homes are worth half a million and even more. And so in my opinion, again, I'm not a scholar, but I think this has generated more wealth post Reconstruction for Black people than
And
any
any other
other
project.
program that I can think about since Reconstruction, as far as like generating Black wealth through home ownership. I don't think I've looked. I don't think you can find something like that post Reconstruction. Maybe some of the Tulsa neighborhoods, or the Black Wall Street neighborhoods, but then again, that wealth was taken back away. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
that's why I think it's a remarkable project that I'm very, very proud of, and I wish um, I'm doing my part, but I wish it would be more known to people because I didn't know about it. I'm not gonna sit here and say I knew. I literally didn't find out I was buying a Nehemiah home until after I closed on my house. So it's like
Right.
I kind of like backdoored in my way into like this historically amazing project.
Yeah. Yeah. And an amazing historically Black project, right?
Yes,
Like,
Black project.
it's
Yes, you're right. I
amazing.
need to add that. Yes.
Yeah. So I appreciate you for bringing that up, and I encourage people to do the research and look it up, and we'll drop some information in the show notes as well. But we end the show every show with
Mhm.
a dope moment or a dope person in history. And since you are a Florida man, I had to bring up a Florida man, and our person today is James Weldon Johnson. Now, I try to bring up a little nuanced thing about our historical people. Most people know James Weldon Johnson as the author of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. He is also one of our fraternity brother. He is from Jacksonville, Florida. Um, he was also the executive secretary for the NAACP from 1920 until 1930.
Mhm.
And so these are all things that people readily know about James Weldon Johnson. His brother was John Johnson, and he co-authored. He was the composer, and I think James was the lyricist. But what people don't know, a lot of people don't know about James Weldon Johnson, is that he was the first Black professor that NYU ever hired. He was the first Black professor at NYU.
Wow.
Right. Right.
Wow. So there's two things. Of course, I know James Weldon Johnson from the Black National Anthem. I know he's our frat brother. I did not know he was from Florida. I
Did
did not.
really?
I did not know that. See, now you're giving me ammunition. I had no idea. I had not. Now you can't tell me nothing about my homie. I really did not know. I knew about the NAACP. I knew about his work, but I did not know he was from Jacksonville, Florida. That is new to me. So thank you for that.
I've given you even more to be more brazen
Oh
about
yes.
Florida.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
great.
Even though it's from Duval County, Jacksonville, it's like, yeah, we don't mess with them over there. But like that's really dope. I did not know that.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that I always love when anybody watching the show learns something new, but also the people on the show learn something new. So
Mhm.
that's our historical fact. So, Jason, how can people find you if they're looking for you?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure we'll drop some stuff in the show notes, but best way to get in contact with me is Instagram. Go to my Instagram, which is Classic Beats, ClassicBeatz, Classic Beats with a Z. Of course, I had to use the Z because I'm a hip hop head. From there, you can see all the things I'm interested in. I'm a musician, I'm a pianist. I also do martial arts and obviously the community activism. Those are the different things I'm interested in. And Instagram has a link where you can follow all my social medias and get all my music and all the other stuff that I'm interested in. But that's the best way to reach out to me, and I'm looking forward to engaging with folks.
Excellent, excellent, and engaging with me, making sure that I will be a Emmy
Yes,
Grammy nominated
I
spoken word
have
artist.
not. We are going to be at the Emmys or Grammys or one of them one day, man. As soon as I kind of just get my
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I know, I know,
It,
I
it,
know,
it's on the podcast now, so
I
people
know,
know about it now.
I know, I know, I know. You hit me up. You are, if anything, bro. You are persistence is the key to success. And you are.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
admire that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And for those of you who are watching, please like and subscribe and share the show. And please tell people about it. And if you know somebody who is a dope person that should be on the show, please get in contact and we'll make it happen. But until then, Jason, thank you so much for participating, and everybody else, go forth and be dope.